All right, welcome to the Behind the Screen podcast. I'm just FYI, I'm just sitting here on my front porch with a lav mic. I don't have time to set up my equipment, so we're just going to see how this works. Just got done with watching a documentary on Netflix called The Last Blockbuster. Anybody who grew up with Blockbuster, and if you're interested in filming documentaries, check out this documentary. It's definitely worth the watch. It's fantastic. I was even getting emotional during the thing because the documentary is about still, as of this recording, March of 2020, there is still one remaining Blockbuster left in the world, and it is located in Oregon. And it's Bend, Oregon, a small town over there. And a family runs it. And there's a woman that runs it there, and she's just the heart and soul of that and keeping it going. And she's really passionate about what she does, and you can tell and it just really just stirred up a lot of memories. And that's really what the documentary was about, was talking about the age of, right now in the current era, you got your Netflix, you got your Hulu, you got all your streaming services. You got DVDs, but right now people are not even watching DVDs or buying Blu-rays anymore. So I just thought I'd just kind of, just talk about the history of home video in this episode and just kind of my experiences from Blockbuster and we'll just kind of, rant and stuff here. Yeah, it was just really cool. Just my memories of Blockbuster, growing up. I remember as a kid, one of the first video rental stores I remember going to was not even a Blockbuster. It was Harold's. There was a small chain called Harold's, and I went there with my dad, and I remember there was red carpet, and there was just like bookshelves of videos. And like in the middle or back of the store, there was camcorders, because you could rent camcorders and VCRs. We had 2 VCRs growing up, and my dad, in the beginning of this was in the mid to late 80s, like had to be 85, 86 or so, rented a video camera. And because back then you could rent the video cameras, rent VCRs, because they were, pretty expensive. And back in the day, and you younger viewers listening to this, but in the 80s and even in the early 90s, I'm not really sure when this changed, but you couldn't really buy home movies, not inexpensively, that you could buy. You could buy Laserdisc, you can buy VHSs, but they were like $100. And because back in the early days, movie studios really did not like the idea of home video because they looked at it as losing money. Because in the olden days, a movie would come out in the theater, and then once it left the theater, it was gone. And then it would be, years down the road, there may be a re-release in a theater or in a secondhand theater. So you just had to kind of wait for it to come around. But movies were kind of a very limited time engagement. And I think the movie studios wanted to just continue doing the re-releases in the theater. And I'm not sure how it went about getting into the home theater market, but and the reason that movies costed, $100 or more was because the movie theater, when you go to the movies, you're paying, $3-5 a person. And so, if one person buys the movie and they have like 10 friends over, well, they're looking at it like they've just lost, $50 right there. So they increased it to $100 to justify that. Because I remember early on going into a video store and in Harold's and in the early days of Blockbuster, I was with my mom. I don't remember. It was my mom and my sisters. I don't remember what movie it was, but there was a movie that we were looking for. I don't think it was in stock. And because one thing that we used to do, and I'm sure you guys would know, is like you would go to Blockbuster, go to the shelves, look for a particular movie, and then be bummed that it wasn't there or that they were out of copies. So then you would go to the front desk and ask, hey, by chance, do you have this movie? Did it come in the returns? And they would look it up in the computer and be like, oh yeah, it's due today in like an hour. It should be here. So I remember there were a couple times where we just hung around the store in hopes of it getting returned, and sometimes it did, and a lot of times it didn't. But one particular time, my mom was like, "Oh, I want to see if we can buy this movie." And then so she went up to the clerk and asked, could we purchase the movie? They didn't have it in stock, but they said, yeah, we could purchase it, but it was going to cost $120 to get this one particular movie. And we were like, $120 to own the movie? So that's crazy. So that's how video rental stores started. Movies were really too expensive, out of reach for most people to own. So these mom and pop stores just kind of popped around and started offering VCR rentals and camcorder rentals and VHS rentals, and that was the way to go. And then when Blockbuster started, they started as a small company. The movie studios tried to sue the mom and pop companies because they felt like it was infringing on their re-releases. No one's buying this tape for $100, but someone goes and pays $3 to rent it for a few days. The movie studios are like, hey, we're losing a lot of money on here. These guys are stealing our profits. So they actually sued the mom and pop video stores. It went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court in favor of the video rental store, saying that, it wasn't, that the movie theaters had to deal with it. And then when Blockbuster started, Blockbuster was smart and decided to work a deal out with the movie companies. And instead of buying tapes for $70, $90 each copy like the mom and pops were doing, they would buy the movie for $2 or $3. And in exchange, they would give the studios or whoever owned these movies a portion of the revenue that they created from the rental. And then that was when Blockbuster just exploded and was killing off the mom and pop stores, because they could have more selection, more copies and the mom and pop stores just couldn't compete with that. So that's why, a lot of mom and pops were eventually bought out, by Blockbuster. But yeah, I remember going to Errold's with my dad a couple times, and I believe my dad ended up buying a camera, the VHS camera that, he still owns to this day, and I shot my early movies on. He, I believe, bought it from Errold's. He rented it for a few years and then bought it. Because back then, VHS cameras were like $1,200, $2,000. Like really, really, it was an investment. And which was really cool because that helped contributed to my interest in movies and things like that. I always loved movies. That's one of the number one things I would do as a kid. I would just watch the same movie over and over again. I have really, really fond memories of going to Blockbuster, mostly with my family. The whole family would go, on a Friday or Saturday night. And Blockbuster used to have a Blockbuster Kids section. And so my parents would rent a movie, and they would allow each of us, me and my two sisters, to each of us pick our own movie. And sometimes I would pick my movie that I wanted to watch, but there might have been another movie that I wanted to watch too. So I would try to convince my other sisters, either one or both of my sisters, I would convince them why they needed to rent this movie. And I remember later on, my mom caught on to that because she kind of yelled at me for getting on to my little sister, because my little sister was wanting to rent, I forget what other movie, and there was a movie that I wanted to watch, and I think it was like a Gumby movie or something like that, and I was trying to convince her, like, this movie has this and this movie has that, and my sister was like, really, it does? And I was like, yeah, you should get that. And then she was like, hey, and then my mom comes in, she goes, hey, you let her rent what she wants to rent, you back off, and stuff. And then I remember going with friends too, like, in elementary school, spending the night over at a friend's house, after school, go to my friend Greg's house and, spend the night. And, his mom would take us out to Blockbuster, and we would go and pick out some video games or a movie, and then, get a pizza and then come home. And man, it was really, really cool. Like, I just really love, and that's one thing that I do really miss. We have a couple stores here, and in the area that I'm in North Carolina, we have Second and Charles, and then we also have Manifest Disc, and they're both used DVDs and CD stores. And it's nice because when I walk into those places, it doesn't feel like Blockbuster, but it kind of just feels like your regular video store. Because even nowadays, like Best Buy and Target and Walmart, their movie selection is just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I believe, as of me recording this, there's been rumors, and I don't know if it's been confirmed or denied. Actually, I think I'll look it up here. But like, you know how Disney like owns everything now. I believe they had mentioned that Disney was going to stop producing physical media in pursuit of increasing their Disney Plus streaming service. Let's see. This article really doesn't say anything either way, but I mean, if you think about it from a business standpoint, it makes sense. You got the streaming service, you're Disney, you have this large catalog of library. It would be cheaper. It would be cheaper because you don't have to produce, you don't have to manufacture the physical media, you don't have to ship it to a store. All you literally got to do is just get, you know, servers and pay for that, and then just have people, you know, pay you $10 a month or $15 a month or $20 a month for eternity instead of buying a handful of movies and doing that. So yeah, I mean, I went to Best Buy a couple weeks ago for the first time in months, and there was hardly anything. Like, the entire DVD and 4K shelf was bare. I think there was literally probably 30 movies on the shelf, and the rest of it was completely empty. And first I was thinking, okay, well, maybe they're just shifting stock, or it's because of the pandemic that's going on. But normally when they do that, they have pieces of paper on the shelf if they're reorganizing the store, and a lot of times you'll see, you know, empty shelves, and they'll have pieces of paper telling the stock people where to stock the new stock and how to rearrange it and things like that. And I didn't see anything like that. And then all the movies that were left were just all in like one cluster. Like, they were not even separated. Like, and DVDs and 4Ks and Blu-rays, the few that they had of each were just, you know, stagnant. And so the demand for physical media has definitely dropped. And I'm actually gotten to a point, I never thought I would get to this point, but I'm finally at that point, and I'm finally making steps to do it. But me and my wife have over 1,200 DVDs. I collected movies. I started collecting movies since I was 15, since I started, you know, working, making my own money. And my wife collected a small batch too. So between us, we had 1,200 DVDs and Blu-rays. I mean, my sister would make the joke saying that I could open up my own Blockbuster video rental store. And for a while I did. I have actually have an app on my phone that catalogs all the stuff that I have, because I've actually bought movies that I already owned like twice or sometimes 3 times, unfortunately, because I have so many movies I didn't realize what I had. And then also too, I would have friends and stuff would ask to borrow stuff, and I was really, really protective of my DVDs. If I loaned you one of my DVDs, I really trusted you. And I probably lost a couple DVDs to friends, but honestly, I really don't care. But in the app, I could scan the barcode, and then I could say where the DVD was. So I could say like, oh, my friend Matt or my friend Greg or something has it. And then that way I can just go through my catalog. Or if I was, you know, on my wall of DVDs looking for a particular movie and I couldn't find it, I could pull out the app and it'd be like, oh, I loaned that movie to Greg and like 2 months ago. And I would call and be like, hey, you still got that movie or whatever, and all that stuff. So, but anyways, I've started making the step to digitize my collection, and I am starting to sell off my collection. I will not sell all of the DVDs and TV shows that I have. I will keep a handful of them, but the majority of them are actually just going to sell them. So right now I got a mini server that I'm setting up in my home to where me and my wife can access our movie library anywhere in the house, and then eventually I will make it to where we can access it out. So if we're on vacation or traveling or something like that, as long as we got an internet connection and the server is on at our house, we'll be able to access our entire movie library on our phones or on any TVs and things like that. So that's pretty cool. And what is funny, because for the longest time, even up to a few years ago, even up to like a year ago, I would always say, like, I heard people, you know, doing that, like some people just selling off their collection, not even digitizing it. And that just kind of blew my mind. I was like, you bought all those movies. I'm like, why would you not at least like rip it to where you have a copy of it And then, but I understand because I can't remember the last time I've actually put a DVD in our Blu-ray or DVD player. And what's really sad is a lot of the cases on my shelf and stuff have just collected dust. Some of them have sun damage because there's a portion of my collection that's right by a window. And so some of the cases are sun damaged. And there'll be a movie that we own and that I want to watch, but I just don't feel like going and finding the movie and putting it in the player. So on the multiple streaming services that me and my wife are subscribed to, I will try to find the movie. And a lot of times I can find the movie, but there are a good collection of movies that I have that are rare, that are not on any streaming service, that have been on streaming services briefly and then disappear. I'm in the process now of just, every day I'm working on things on my computer, and I'm just ripping DVDs and Blu-rays, and then the ones that I want to get rid of, I've just been selling them off piece by piece, and investing that into the server and things like that. So, and the good thing with that, what led me to that, what the main reason why I didn't want to do that is because there really wasn't an efficient way that I was seeing for me to do it. And then there were some services like Vudu and Apple and things like that where you can do that. But what scared me with that is it almost locks it on that particular platform. So if that platform ever went away or something happened, you couldn't easily transfer your movies from one media to the other. But I found a solution. I just ripped them to MKV files, so it's the full resolution file. And right now I'm currently using the Plex server, and then what's great about that is my movies are on my hard drives on my server, and so even if Plex ever goes away or gets shut down or anything like that, I still have access to the files. I can convert those MK files to anything. So if I wanted to, what's great about that is I can if I want to take like 3 or 5 movies with me and put them on my phone, I could literally do that. I can take those, I can make copies of them, I can convert them into a high resolution compressed file that will fit on my phone and literally copy it to my phone or put it on Google Drive. And then if I'm on a airplane ride or somewhere that doesn't even have internet connection, I have access to it. So I'm able to do that. The only bad thing is if I ever lose my hard drive or my server crashes, I would lose the majority of my collection. So that is one thing that scares me, but I'm going to have backups and backups. I'm going to have at least 3 backups of that. So hopefully the chances of that happening will be minimal. And so that's what really led me to do that, because it's taken up space. I haven't touched a lot of the DVDs in years, and so I'm just like, this stuff is just taking up space, and I just don't want it anymore. And so out of the 1,200, I'll probably knock it down to probably about 100 DVDs, 100 to 200 I'll probably keep, and the rest will probably be sold off. And then I might even go less to 100 or 200 of that, so I don't know. But so yeah, it just opened up a lot of memories on Blockbuster. Like I would go with my parents. My parents will let each of us rent our own movie, go into the store, and the movie that we're wanting is not available in stock, or it is available in stock. But then what I really miss too is it's just something different about going through a store and just walking the shelves and wandering around and looking at the box art. You can look at it, you can pick it up, you can read it, you can look at the pictures, and it just seemed like it was just way better than just flipping through Netflix or Hulu or any streaming service. The thing I don't like about streaming services is, in Blockbuster and video stores, it was somewhat overwhelming, but it was just a completely different experience when you're able to walk and look at the actual box art versus looking at stuff on a streaming service. The streaming service just does not do the same thing that walking through the aisles, because a lot of times with streaming, I'm looking for a particular movie. We've all done it where you're trying to find a random movie on Netflix or whatever, and an hour and a half goes by and you still haven't picked a movie because you're just going through all the choices. But the thing of discovery is just kind of lost. Like, because I feel like, you're walking down an aisle and then just something would just catch your eye, or, you're looking for a particular movie and then sitting right next to that movie is something else, and just something about the box art, or just something about the lighting, or just something would, like, you could just discover movies that you never even heard of, and then you pick it up and you read the descriptions, you got it physically there in your hand, and you see there's only a limited copies left on the shelf, and then back then, you really had to kind of think about your choice, because that was it. You would only get maybe 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 movies. It's not like Netflix. You start watching a movie and then you're like, I'm not really into this, and then you could just stop it and watch something else. You were stuck with that. You either had to just sit there and watch the movie, or that was it. Your weekend was shot if you got something crap. But it was just the whole experience of that. It was just a weekly thing. Not a weekly thing, but just like a nice weekend routine when there was nothing going on or anything like that, or a new release hit Blockbuster, or just getting together with friends and just all making a trip down there and renting video games and renting movies. And that was the thing too, is like, as a kid, I really only got video games either at birthdays or Christmases. Every now and then I could convince my parents or something or they would surprise me with a video game, throughout the year. But pretty much it was just birthdays and Christmases. And then the majority of video games was going to Blockbuster and renting those. And that was really cool. It was good and bad at the same time, because you could kind of discover games. And I think like what most people did is, you would go and rent a game, and then if you liked it, then I would want to get it. So then I would either I would put on my birthday list or Christmas list, or I would just go buy it myself. But yeah, it's just, getting together with friends, renting some movies. Oh, about the video games. The good and bad thing about the video games is, video games tend to be more expensive. I don't ever remembering, I might a couple times that was able to get 2 video games, but most of the time it was only 1, because I remember video game rentals were a lot more expensive than movie rentals. Because I remember at one point, I think it was something like I could either get a movie or a video game, or 2 movies or 1 video game, or something like that. And so you really had to but that was like that with movies. You really had to kind of really think about the choice that you were going to be making, because, once you made that choice, that was your weekend. You were stuck with it. It's not like, again, with these services that, you just kind of pick a random movie if you're trying to discover something, and then you realize, this is crap. You can just stop it and move on to another film. No, you were pretty much stuck. There was one of the last Blockbusters I went to in Northern Virginia before I moved to North Carolina. That was kind of really the last thing. It was almost like almost a weekend tradition for a long time. On a Friday night or Saturday night, I have a bunch of friends over. We would go to Blockbuster, and then we would go to Sheetz. So we go to Blockbuster, we would rent a handful of movies, maybe a video game or 2. Go to Sheetz, get some subs, food and snacks, and Mountain Dew and all that stuff. Go back to my house. And most of the time, if we had like 3 movies, one of the movies in the case would not be the movie. So, it would say like, Blade on the case, and then we would open it up, and there was something like, The Little Mermaid inside the case. And the Blockbuster was like a 35-minute drive down the road. And so it was just like, But the only good thing about that is that Blockbuster was kind of cool about it. We would tell them like, hey, we rented this movie and this movie's in here, and they'd be like, I'm sorry, and they would give us rental credits. So we got kind of a few rental credits, because it kept happening. Because what would be funny is it would happen back to back, because it would be like, they're like, okay, well, go ahead and we'll give you a credit for 2 movies or something. We get 2 movies, get back, and sure enough, one of them was swapped out. So I don't know what was going on there, but that happened pretty regularly. And then right before I moved to North Carolina in early 2004 was when I got my own Blockbuster membership. But then shortly after that, so from 2004 to about 2009 is when all 2009, 2010 is when all the Blockbusters in my area closed down. And I honestly stopped renting from Blockbuster probably around 2005, 2006. And there was a couple of reasons why. I wasn't a Netflix subscriber. I really didn't care about it, the whole Netflix thing. What really kind of turned me off was just having to just wait for it. I really like going to the store, finding what I want, and then grabbing it and go. And I'm still like that to that day. And that's what really ticks me off about certain stores. I mean, every store is guilty of it. Walmart, Best Buy, and things like that. Things that they used to carry, they don't carry anymore. Or particular things that I'm looking for that you think they would carry, they don't have. So then I'm forced to buy it online. And whatever. But I really like just being able to go to a store. This is what I need. Pay for it, get it, even if I got to pay a few bucks extra. Just getting it now is fine. But I know now with Amazon, and there's a distributor real close to where we live, so I mean, we're usually getting stuff next. We've never gotten stuff the same day, but I mean, they're working on it now to where that's what the future is going to be. That is what the future is. You're just going to either be able to, I could see 20, 30 years down the road that there almost won't even be like stores. There might be some, but there might just be some small like mom and pop kind of places. But mostly I just see people ordering things online, and it's just being delivered to your house that same day, or you just drive to a distribution center and then somebody comes out with your order and puts it in your car for you, and you take it home. I mean, eventually that's just where I see going. I think, unfortunately, just perusing the aisles and things like that might come to an end, in 50 years or something like that. Who knows? I'm just kind of spitballing there. But it's just, I really, really, really miss it. And I was just getting kind of emotional just watching the documentary, because one fond memory I had, I think it was like 1997. It had to be 97 because that's when the movies came out. Or Beverly Hills Ninja had just came out on rental, and it was my birthday weekend. And usually for my birthday, I just wanted to have a bunch of friends over. So, I had like 10 friends over and stuff like that. And we just stay up all night, and we wanted to rent Mortal Kombat and Beverly Hills Ninja with Chris Farley. And I remember just being all excited, getting out of school, mom taking me down to the video store and finding those two movies and taking them back and just sitting there watching them with my friends. And that was just a really, really cool, fun time hanging out with friends. And then another funny story about actually going to the store, me and my friend Greg in the 5th grade, his mom picking us up after school, and I was going to spend the weekend over there. And we went to Blockbuster, we ordered pizza, and we rented some video games. And there was also a strategy guide for sale. Well, we didn't have enough money to get the games and the strategy guide. And so we're looking at the strategy guide. And first this was before the day, there weren't cell phone cameras or anything. So we couldn't take a picture of it or anything. Even if we had a camera, it was all film cameras. They had to get developed. And by the time we got the pictures back, the video games would have had to been due back to the store. But anyway, we tried to see if we could memorize it, but there were just like those ultra long passwords in video games because there were cheat codes and things like that. It wasn't stuff that you could easily remember. And then so we go up to the clerk in Blockbuster, and I think we asked the guy or the woman there and said, "Can we borrow a pen and a piece of paper?" And they said, "Why?" And I don't know why we did this, but as 5th graders, we were just honest. We were just like, we just want to copy the cheat codes in this gaming magazine. And the clerk is just looking at us like wide-eyed, like, "You idiots! You have to buy that guide in order to get that information." And then we just kind of like, "Oh, we're just poor kids and we can't afford this." And then we're like, "Oh, okay, no problem." And so we go and just kind of put it back. And then I guess she had pity on us, because then we were just kind of looking around, and then she kind of whistled at us, and we turned around and we saw she put a a piece of paper and a pen on the counter and just walked away. And then so we went and grabbed that and then wrote down the cheat codes and then took the games there and we put the cheat codes in and, had pizza and everything like that. And that was really fun. That's really one of my last kind of fond memories of Blockbuster, because I got my own membership in 2003, 2004. By then I was 18, 19 years old, and I would rent a couple movies, but I really didn't rent very much. And the reason for that is because at that time in the early 2000s, a lot of movies started to kind of drop, like middle 2000, 2005, 2006, movies started to drop in price. And so why would I spend $3 or $6 to rent a movie if I pay $10, $5 or $10, and I can own it and watch it as many times as I want? So I bought a lot of movies, and I bought a lot of my collection used from Blockbuster, because Blockbuster would have all these deals like 3 for $20, 4 for $20, buy one, get one, all that stuff. So I was making weekly trips to Blockbuster. Once I got a real job and started making decent money, weekly trips, and every week, picking up 2 or 3 movies from Blockbuster or Target or Walmart or Best Buy, and I would just every week, once or twice a day, just go to those, make my rounds on those stores around Tuesday or Wednesday, and just look at the new releases. And that's how I discovered a lot of movies that I enjoy and things like that, was just by walking and in the stores, and just like something would catch my eye, or the way the light was or the environment was, and it was just more sense of discovery doing that. And then I would find a lot of old rare movies and out of print movies, secondhand and things like that from Blockbuster that you couldn't find in Target and Walmart. So that was really good, and that's what I did. I steadily collected from 2003 all the way till about 2013 was really when I stopped, because I got married in 2012, getting a house, more responsibilities, and just things happening, and just didn't really have a lot of extra money for movies, and just kind of lost interest in it. Not really lost interest in it, but I had such a huge collection. There really wasn't much that I was looking for other than the newest releases that would come out. And, Best Buy, they don't do this anymore, but they used to. Stores used to, like on the Tuesday of day of release, a lot of times you would get movies like $5 off or sometimes half off for the first week only, and then they would go up to regular price. So which was really smart on that, because that gave me an incentive to do that. But really just kind of lost interest in it, in collecting stuff, because I pretty much, a lot of the movies that I want, I have. And I used to collect everything, just everything, I had all Friday the 13th and stuff like that. Things that I wasn't even necessarily interested in. I just wanted to buy it because it was a lot of movies didn't even get a VHS release. And so when they came out on DVD, and so much was available on DVD, it was just I wanted to grab it and own it before it went away. And that way I would always be able to have it and watch it and stuff like that. But as life has just gotten busy and things like that, I still watch movies not as much as I used to. Just don't really have time to do it. And I'm more looking through movies on streaming than I am in physical media. And also there's not a lot of places to buy physical media anymore. And so I finally got on that ship of digitizing my collection, selling it off. But it's weird. It's weird, though. It's really conflicting, hearing that, not really interested in collecting and things like that. But I do really miss kind of the video store and things like that. And I think it will probably have somewhat of a resurgence, because it's hit that nostalgia area. And we have, Second and Charles and Maverick Disc. They're not rental stores, but you can buy them secondhand. I think there are some mom and pop rental stores that have kind of popped up recently here and there, but I can't imagine it'd be a lucrative business, because even with me, with doing video production, I was amazed until 2018, 2019 was the biggest year. Before that, I was still getting requests for things on DVD. I was really surprised, because to me, it's just it's an outdated format at this point. Let's just be honest with it. But now I'm just getting people, people are just wanting things digital and digitized and things like that, which is great. And we're getting fewer requests for DVDs, and eventually we'll stop offering that service. So with where I work, and things will just be digital and setting up servers and things like that, But anyway, let's see. The Last Blockbuster is located in Bend, Oregon, and it's run by Sandy Harding. Her and her family run it. I think it's like her and her kids and like the teenagers in the area. She's supplied the jobs. But if you haven't seen The Last Blockbuster, it's now available on Netflix as of this recording. It's an hour and a half long. My only complaint was I wish it was a little bit longer, but man, it was just such a really great documentary. It's just a bunch of, there's some celebrities on there just talking about their experiences with Blockbuster, kind of like what I'm sharing with you now. And I mean, I think anybody growing up in that era, just when you walk into the store and the way that it looked and the way that it smelled and everything that was laid out, and it was really cool. Just, the crew just got some really, really nice cinematic shots. It just wasn't like footage that you would just see like on the news or something. But no, the filmmakers of this documentary did an amazing job with the cinematography and the lighting and the sound and the music. It just really just like captured that nostalgia, and it's funny. It's just funny just how, it's something you think about it like, oh yeah, it's outdated and things like that, and I've kind of somewhat moved on with it, but at the same time you really miss it, because I think like if a Blockbuster opened up if like a Blockbuster just kind of appeared in my hometown again, I think initially it would be exciting. I would want to go there and walk the aisles, and I would probably rent a couple things, but I think after a couple hours with the nostalgia, I don't think it would last, unfortunately. But anyways, this person, Sandy, is just amazing. I'll just talk a little bit about it. I don't want to go too much into it. I just highly recommend you go watch it yourself. But you can tell that she loves it. She's passionate with what she does. And she just has it's just a really nice family environment. I mean, she does have her kids and her family helping, but she's got other teenagers and stuff that she hires in the area, and it just feels like a really nice place to work, because all of her past, like, I think they do like an annual family Blockbuster party over there. So like her family and her extended family and people that previously worked there just had all nice, amazing things. And one thing that she would do is like, if somebody came in and they did not have a movie that they were particularly looking for, she would go out and find it. She would go track it down, either Target, Walmart, or online, or eBay, and things like that, and that's just really awesome. So she built a relationship with her customers and friendships with their customers, and that's just awesome, just to go above and beyond like that, because unfortunately, just with the day and age, a lot of people just don't want to do anything extra, and that's just really, really sad, and it really, really ticks me off when I go to these certain stores and things like that, and you're just asking like a basic question and they just don't feel like being there, and I realize there's a whole thing like that. There's it's just a shame that the way some companies work, they're all about the I know with businesses you have to make money in order to survive, but what really frustrates me with some corporations, it's like they're looking at that short term, that immediate gain. So they're going to try to do everything that they can to get as much, every dollar out of everything as much as they can, instead of looking at the long term, instead of looking at the short term game. To me, that's just short term gain, long term loss, because you're sacrificing quality, you're sacrificing relationships, you're sacrificing so much just to, you might be collecting the money now, but eventually that's just going to dry up, and somebody else, you're either just going to die off, or somebody else is going to take over or do something more efficiently or something like that. But I think if you can build relationships with people, make people feel good, help them, inspire them, make connections with them, you're going to succeed and you're going to flourish. And I mean, we see that with so many companies that do that just have a really positive work environment. And they're looking at the long-term strategy, and they're looking at building relationships and things like that. And I'm not going to name any particular companies, but there are companies, and I'm sure if you think about it hard enough, you'll know. But when you go into businesses and they really care and things like that, versus somebody else who's just wanting to get the dollar out of your pocket. It's just two completely different things, and so that's just awesome that not only are they able to keep it alive, but and things like that. And as of right now, it's I think that Blockbuster's still going on or something. Yeah, but definitely check out that documentary and really study that documentary. I really love the way that it was shot and the music and things like that. They really just like pulled me in, and just hearing everybody's stories and got me thinking of my own stories and just how it's just. I think that's what it is. I think it's like, because kind of going back with what I was saying earlier, like, yeah, if like a Blockbuster opened up now, it would be awesome for a little bit, but then I think that would wear off, because it's more of like, I miss the era. It was more of just not particularly Blockbuster itself, but what Blockbuster represented. It was a different time. It was a different era. You were out sociably. It was a social thing. You would go out with your friends, you would go out with your date, you would go out with your family. It was something to do, because back in the days before cell phone and the internet and this like isolation, everyone's hiding behind a username and anonymity, and you're losing a lot of that physical interaction. It was just back in the day where you had to go out and do things. You go to Blockbuster, you go to the mall, you go to the movies, go out to eat and things like that. And people obviously still do that, but I don't know if kids or something do that nowadays as much, and teenagers and things like that. It was just part of growing up. So it's just like, it was just a better world when we could all go out and be more sociable, where you had to actually go out and interact with people and things like that, versus everyone's isolated behind their computer screen or TV screen and doing their own thing and all that crap. So I think it's just more of the thing. It's just one of those things where it's an era that's, unfortunately, it's gone. Hopefully it will come back. Hopefully people will just get stir crazy and just want to bust. I know with what's going on in the world right now with the pandemic and stuff going on, it's awesome now seeing people in my area on the weekends. Like, I'm seeing people are just out and about, and everyone's ready to, get back to living life, still being safe, but getting back to living life and things like that. And so hopefully maybe this will, this year of isolation will inspire people to like bust out, maybe put down the screens for just a little bit and interact more with people and things like that. So anyways, kind of rambling here and there, but that's just kind of what I wanted to share about. So go check out The Last Blockbuster on Netflix, watch it, and let me know what you guys think in the comments. What's one of your favorite Blockbuster or video rental, stories or memories and stuff that you have? I'd be really interested in hearing that. There is a there's a voicemail feature. Go ahead and click on that and leave a voicemail of your favorite Blockbuster, memory, or even not a Blockbuster, was there a mom and pop store or memory or something in there. So go ahead and leave a voicemail on that. And if there's any other topics or anything you would like me to cover or talk about, just let me know, and give this podcast a thumbs up. Please share it. The more that this goes out, the more episodes that I can make. I don't know when the next episode will be, because I am just one person. Please share this. Please rate this. It helps me. The faster we can get this growing, the more episodes I can get out, more content I can do that for you. And just let me know. Please give me your honest opinion on how this is going, and so I can improve the show and get the content that you guys want. Anyways, we'll see you guys on the next episode. Stay safe. Have a good one out there, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Bye. The next episode. Bye. The next episode. Bye. The next episode. Bye. The next episode. Bye.